Hello Team FD and welcome back to Winners and Losers, where we break down the latest and greatest Premier League action. Joining me today, it's Dukes, it's Zach, and we're not doing domestic football, this clip anyway. We're going to do an international debate, something that's been hotly contested on the timeline, and that is James Maddison's involvement in the England squad. You know, people saying he should be in Gareth Southgate's final 26 who head to Qatar. And when you have a look at his numbers, gents, it's pretty easy to understand why, isn't it? 20 goals and assists last campaign, 10 in 12 starts this season. He's just one of 3 Englishmen to have contributed to 10 Premier League goals across the course of this season. Now, some varying takes in this studio. Dukes, I know that you're quite sympathetic to Gareth Southgate's stance on leaving him out. So you lead the charge on that front. I know you might find this quite therapeutic. You have been debating it pretty heatedly with people on Twitter. So go on, give us your rationale.
So, yes, my mentions have been on fire, to clarify, for the last 12 hours. And you know you've either said something very controversial or something very stupid when you've got like 20 quote tweets. And some people telling me to delete Twitter. I don't think I explained my point very well or articulately enough. Basically, my issue was not whether, if James Maddison goes to the World Cup, great. I think he's a great player. He's had an excellent season since the start of last year. Second most goal involvements for English players. He's a great creator. Seems like a great guy. No issue with that. My issue is that I don't really understand the ferocity of the debate when there is so much competition. It is England's strongest area of the squad, that area behind Kane. You know, and I wouldn't take him, or wouldn't want to see him take the place of Sterling, Saka, Mount, Foden, Grealish, etc. Now, in Gareth Southgate's last squad, Jarrod Bowen was in it. So I've got no issue with James Maddison taking Jarrod Bowen's place. But at the same time, in Southgate's preferred system, with a 5 at the back, 3 up front, counter-attacking style, Jarrod Bowen probably does fit that slightly better than James Maddison, who, for all the strengths of his game, isn't particularly quick. Also, a player that wasn't included in Gareth Southgate's last squad was Marcus Rashford, who has been excellent recently and has a much better England record than James Maddison, of course, who's only got 1 cap. So I just think that the basis of people being outraged over James Maddison's omission probably should have come a year ago. You know, he's been doing this for a while now, and now with a week to go before the squad is named, to complain this much about a player that's been capped once over these players that have so much international experience, that have done it for England at major tournaments, in 2 of our best tournaments since 1966, I might add. I just don't understand why people are so het up about it. If he makes it, I'll be happy for him, but I don't think it's a glaring omission that's going to ruin England's World Cup chances if he doesn't.
But then I suppose what people might say at home is that because he's only got 1 cap, he has not had the chance to demonstrate his abilities on the international stage, and owing to the lack of form of some England stars, tournaments aside, and that is a massive aside, by the way. I'm referencing the Nations League here, where they were particularly poor. Maybe it is unfair that he's not been given said opportunity. I mean, it's a pretty hard-line stance you've taken there, that, he's not got the same pedigree, let's say, as some others, so tough luck.
Yeah, I don't think... He has been unfortunate. He has been underused. That's not his fault he's been underused, but I just think it's a bit dramatic to, say, pick a Maddison over a Grealish, who has experience of changing games for England at major tournaments, or Mount, who is England's 3rd top goal scorer in their most recent squad. Hasn't been phenomenal for Chelsea this year, but has a record of doing it for England. Why are we gambling on the impact of James Maddison when we know the impact of these players can have for England?
But do you not come back to, this is what kind of frustrated me with Southgate's last squad, where he picked 6 centre-backs that he didn't have to, especially when at times he was trialling a 4 at the back. And when you're this close to a World Cup, you already know the likes of Mount and what he can do, what Grealish can do in the squad. Why not then go and get Maddison in the squad? You can test him out in this England team, see maybe how he fits. Maybe he surprises you. Maybe he doesn't, and he proves you actually it's not going to work. But now you're going into a tournament where the whole nation is seeing Maddison fantastic in club form, doing basically everything he can possibly do on the pitch to try and get a place in this England squad. And it's tough, because if England get knocked out early, if something doesn't go right, a player gets injured, whatever it might be, everyone goes, well, what if Maddison was there? What if Maddison? At least then, if he'd tested it, and then everyone can see, and if Maddison performs well for England, you go, brilliant, okay, we bring him in. And that's the other thing as well, is whilst I do understand your thing, and I'm not saying personally that Maddison will start each game, I don't think that's going to happen, but when you are taking 6 centre-backs, or at least in your previous one, and maybe he doesn't, but one of them is also Mark Gehi, who's been good, but maybe with the way that Maddison's performing, you can drop him and take Maddison instead.
How I feel is that his resistance to including someone like Maddison means that he will stick with the 3-4-3 or the 5 at the back system, right? And that, for me, I mean, it's proved successful in tournament football. Obviously, you can't really argue with the results, but it is a little bit disheartening because I do think, I mean, just from a personal perspective, there's something slightly cowardly at playing 5 at the back when you've got the talent that he has at his disposal. But it also isn't like conducive to playing the best brand of football. It's pretty attritional. It's very reliant on set pieces. And we've got inverted wingers sort of coming out of our ears. To have someone who is a true number 10, an out-and-out number 10 in the squad who is excellent at picking apart sitting defences, which I imagine Iran, the USA and Wales will become, you know, from 10 minutes onwards. It feels like a weapon England should take to have in their arsenal for those, what feels like inevitable scenarios. However, if he is just going to stick with 3 at the back, then yeah, it is less compelling. Then maybe don't take him and carry on with Sterling, who's not going to get dropped, Foden on one flank, Kane up front.
But it's the idea.
I just don't think he's going to change if he doesn't change his fundamental system.
It's the idea, though, that you'd like to think of having that option. Because if you don't have someone like that there, and again, Mount can do that, but maybe not to the, at least recently with the form-wise, Maddison's showing that he's one of the best in the league. It's kind of weird, because I kind of feel like sometimes when I look at other nations, no one else is having the same argument about when players are performing really, really well, they're going, why they're not in their international team? It's almost like, it feels, at least, maybe I'm just paying more attention to England, it might be just that. But it's weird, and I guess it happens every single year. I mean, last season in the Euros, it was Trent, right? And to be fair, it was Trent up until all these injuries happened for most recently, whether he would be going. And I personally think he will take him. I think he will probably drop a centre-back. Obviously, there are the injuries that have been happening as well recently. There's probably a few more spaces opening up. And so I think it might just end up us all being like, oh, he's actually got him in the squad. What a surprise. But we find out on Wednesday.
Yeah, I think it's just more about roles and fulfilling those roles, isn't it? And Maddison is in a bit of a weird grey area when it comes to that, because on the wings they do have Mount to come in, Saka to come in,
Sterling,
Grealish potentially,
and the midfielders are water carriers to an extent. I mean, they're 2 pretty bloody good ones in Bellingham and Rice, but then you've got Henderson backing them up. Like, as in the main part of their job is to protect that back four, is to bring it out from deep, not to partake with play in the final third necessarily. But that's our take on the whole James Maddison situation. As you can tell, we're pretty conflicted. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and stay tuned for more great Football Daily content like this video. Subscribe to the channel with notifications on, and we'll catch you next time. See ya.